Hi, I'm Todd Nash, President of Oregon Cattlemen's Association. I'm here today with Dr. Allison Myers. And Allison, you want to tell us again who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be back on the podcast. I'm Allison Myers, and I am the Associate Dean for Extension and Engagement in the College of Health and in the Extension Service at Oregon State University.
Well, that is a lengthy title, and I'm glad you got that down pat because I'm sure that I'm not going to get that. Allison, I was looking back. It's been about 9 months since we did an interview, and so a few things have changed, and so I wanted to update people on kind of what's happened since we talked last. So,
Gosh.
um, yeah, uh, you came up with an idea, a concept, and so what was that idea that you had?
Yeah, it's true. It's been 9 months. The last time we talked, I was not even really permanent in my job, and they've decided to keep me around, and I'm grateful for that. It's wonderful to lead health extension in the state. So the idea was to launch something called the AgriStress Helpline in Oregon. And it's a tailored crisis line for the agricultural community. That if somebody is in a time of a mental health or other crisis, or um, feeling like they might harm themselves or are a danger to themselves, they could call a private confidential number and get somebody on the other end of the line who can be supportive, who can help to de-escalate, who understands where they're coming from. And the idea was to be able to bring it to Oregon. And there's a long, involved story, but the good news is that we did it. That's the punchline of all of this, is that we did it. And I've gotten some confirmation this morning that the line for Oregon with the tailored Oregon services will launch on September 1st.
Well, that is big news, and it wasn't necessarily an easy trail to get here, um, but going backwards just a little bit, um, you brought this idea to me and some others, and wanted to know if you could get some support. And um, I thought this would be a good legislative concept, um, and so we pursued that. I thought Senator Hansel would be the ideal person to carry this bill. And so actually at Oregon Cattlemen's Association at our annual convention, you made a connection there with Senator Hansel and discussed this, and good to his word, he made it one of his priority bills. And but it's kind of a long sordid story how that made it through the process. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You and I have gotten to know each other over these last 9 months. I mean, I think the first time we had a lunch together at an extension event, and then you invited me to come talk on this same podcast, and it's been in the space between that we've been able to do this work, to really put into action some of what was really just a set of maybe dreams, dare I say. But my training is in community health. I'm a health educator, have been. It's more than half my life at this point that I've been doing health education and what I call health promotion work, across lots of topics. Right. In the very beginning, in the 90s, it was sexual and reproductive health. I've done tobacco prevention and control work. I got into mental health in more recent years. But for somebody like me, it's a dream when you can bring together a solution, right, to a problem that meets a need that folks also see, right? It's not okay for me at the university to say, here, I brought you this thing that maybe you don't need, right? It's very important for me to listen and understand what communities are interested in. but to be able to bring a solution, have people take it on really as their own, and in partnership, and then also get it done, is just an incredible feeling. And so I often am just really grateful to all of you, uh, for sort of linking arms and meeting a need. Of course, we still have more work to do, but anyway, it was amazing when I called you and said, "What do you think of this idea?" And it's okay if you tell me it's a bad one. And you, quite to the contrary, it was like, well, actually, no, let's explore it and let's talk with Senator Hansel. And so, we could have, the line itself costs a little less than $70,000 a year, to enable for the state. You need to also promote and market the line. That has an expense to it as well. So we knew, about how much we'd have to raise. We could do that in lots of ways. We could write grants. We could use, current budgets. We could ask, for gifts and donations. But the idea was, let's see if we can get this support legislatively. And sure enough, we did. The win ultimately was $300,000 into an endowment over at the Oregon State University Foundation. And that's called the Rural Mental Health Fund. And there's both an endowment there that will produce funds that we'll be able to use on a recurring basis. Right now, we're going to get about $12,000 a year. And then there's also a fund that folks can contribute to that's for current use. And we're so grateful to Eastern Oregon Coordinated Care Organization, and to the Roundhouse Foundation for giving us funds in the current use pot, for right now that we can turn on the line. Do you want me to talk about some of the twists and turns in the legislature this year? I could.
Well, sure. I think, right off the bat, when the bill got dropped, we were all surprised to see it go to Judiciary Committee and wondering why it went there. I was a little bit naive to the fact that a lot of the bills that are destined to die get sent to Judiciary, and so getting that moved out of there was our first lift. And so Senator Przanski chaired that committee, and we utilized our own lobbyist, Rocky Dahlum, and he helped you. And I knew that if you had that conversation with Senator Przanski, that we would likely see some movement there. But there
Yeah.
was some resistance at first, but go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we managed a phone call. Chair Przanski called me, I believe it was on his way home, from Salem to his district, and we talked kind of late in the afternoon and had a lovely conversation. He had some familiarity with this type of telephone service and understood, after we talked, the difference between, for example, this particular crisis line and the national 988 number. The national 988 number is something that anyone can call. It's an alternative to 911. It's specifically for mental health crises, and it's been launched in the United States for just over a year. And so that is a totally understandable thing to ask. Well, what's the difference, and why would you need another one? And the bottom line is 988 is not yet tailored for the agricultural community. I think in the future, we'll see the two sort of merged so that you can dial one number or the other. But that was a good question. We talked that through. We have lots of good evidence that tailoring of health education interventions is what's needed. And that is what the AgriStress Helpline does. I was pleased with the conversation, and he said it was great to talk to me, and that he would schedule a hearing, and that is exactly what happened. And then I think it's super important for us to acknowledge all of the people that signed on to the coalition letter. I have it open on my desktop, and every time I look at it, I'm just so pleased to see so many organizations representing Oregon agriculture and so many organizations representing Oregon health. And a lot of folks came together at the time of that hearing to give it a lot of visibility, and media partners too. People, there were lots of newspaper articles about this coming up as well.
Yeah, we kind of gave it a full court press, for lack of a better pun with the press. I think there was 5 different articles, maybe more, that came out, and so we wanted to get widespread support, but also make people aware of what was going on in rural Oregon and in natural resource Oregon, and part of what we're doing here is not only getting this hotline up and running, but really the messaging that, as you described, those deaths of despair are preventable, and
A lot of the time they are, and it's very true that, historically suicide rates in rural areas have been higher than they are in urban areas. We don't always have great data on health issues. In the United States, we have better data in health than in a lot of places. But of course, I'm biased. But we do know from the National Violent Death Reporting System, is what it's called, that folks in agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting have among the highest rates of suicide in the country. And there's a lot of stressors that come together to create that situation. There's also a lot of sort of cultural characteristic on feeling like maybe you should be able to handle it all alone. Forgive me if I stretch too far there, but I think our conversation, it elevated an important topic, and I hope that we're letting a little light in, undoing some of the stigma that people might feel if they are struggling. And we just, we want people to know that help is available. We absolutely positively care. The pain that people feel, it feels like it's insurmountable in the moment, and we want there to be a net, a support, to be able to get through that hard time.
And so, getting back to what happened legislatively, so we got our hearing. We had a really positive hearing. It got moved on to Ways and Means, and then sat there in Ways and Means, and then we had the Senate walkout, and so a lot of bills that were to be funded or policy changes got put on the back burner, and it didn't look very positive for us to get this bill to move forward. But with really some of our strong partnership with some key legislators, um, we actually had the last bill that made it through Ways and Means,
Yeah.
and the last bill that made it through the House before the gavel came down, and we had unanimous support. And
It's
yeah,
incredible.
short of one legislator making a little bit of a fool of himself in Ways and Means, um, uh, this was a great success, and really, um, um, I want to always give Oregon Cattlemen's Association a little bit of pat on the back, but had you not had the support from OCA, it's kind of like what you started out saying. Here we got this great thing. We're from the university and we're here to help. Uh, how important was it to have a, a group like OCA come alongside and support this?
It made a world of difference. I was talking recently with a senator from another state who is interested in legislatively working for an appropriation to bring the AgriStress helpline to their state. And, they were talking about some of the political divide that they experience. And that was the first thing I mentioned, was that we can assure you that there are members of the agricultural community through a trade association. Maybe it's your county commissioner, maybe it's a family of someone who's affected, that will absolutely want this. And it is in the power of the partnerships that will bring this forward. Rocky Dallum deserves a huge shout out, right? We had a wonderful conversation. It's an issue that's close to his heart, right? He brought in a couple of folks who are lobbyists for Moda Health. Thanks to them, who got a large, another group of folks on board. There were a couple of legislators, Democrats from Portland, who signed on, who said, we need to do this. Just the comments, and particularly in that last hearing, the comments from folks on both sides of the aisle saying that this was a good idea, and then asking really great questions about, I hope we're going to collect the data and know whether it's working. Yes, we are, right? I hope that we can work to be sure that ultimately, maybe that we're coordinating right across different systems so that folks aren't operating in silos. Of course, we want to do that. And I think it might have been Senator Steiner who talked about the importance of the Extension Service as a trusted voice, which just means the world to me, right? Because that's what we want to do. We're where the university serves the people and partners with the people to work on things that matter to Oregonians. And it's this has been keeping me going. This has been great work over the recent months, and it's going to be interesting to watch the rollout. We've got logo files. We're making sure there are resources there with the call specialist, Oregon specific resources. We've been doing paperwork for weeks, working in the direction of getting the line launched.
Yeah, it is exciting to see this come to fruition, and all the work that you've done to make it happen, Allison. Everybody knows you're the hero of this whole thing. It was
And I
your
know.
concept to begin with, and we just needed to be able to support you all the way through, and we're really glad to do that. And I think Rocky Dollum said this is the best bill that is going to come through this legislative session. Really felt like it was. Um, it didn't have to be as difficult as it was, and you framed it up there a little bit, but a huge shout out to those that gave some of those really positive testimonies, to those that really leaned into it, and there were many, and won't name them all, but ultimately we got invited also to a signing, and do you want to describe that a little bit?
Yeah, that was amazing. Thanks so much, Trevor and Marley Hampshire, for hosting all of us at their house in Prairie City. There was a ceremonial bill signing with the governor and her wife, Amy, who is a social worker and focuses a lot on mental health. It was wonderful to speak with them and to have their involvement. That was just a banner day. Never in my life have I done anything like that. And, at the risk of being too personal, I tell people a lot. My husband and I moved to Oregon from North Carolina 5 years ago. Right now, we were driving with the dogs and the truck across country, and all my family is there, and it's just been so meaningful to be involved in so much really important public health work since we got here. And particularly, standing in front of the fighting bulls on the porch that day in the sun in Prairie City with the governor and all of you, was like, wow, this is what it's all about right here. So.
Yeah, and to be there with Commissioner Hampshire, that this was really near and dear to his heart. Senator Finley, Senator Hansel, Representative Levy, and
Representative
Representative Owens.
Owens. Yeah.
All of those had a really meaningful
Yeah.
part in making sure this got over the finish line. And there's many others. The work that Tammy did. There's you know, a long list of people that contributed, and we won't get them all in there, and I apologize for that, but we still have a little work to do to get this fully endowed, and we need about $2 million, and we'll get that eventually. Um, I'm confident in that. But Allison, the rollout now that is going to come on Friday, September 1st. Yes.
The rollout of the line, there have been lots of steps to be able to get ready. As I mentioned briefly before, we want to make sure that if someone calls from Oregon, the person on the line understands the local context and understands about agriculture in Oregon. So we've done a fair amount of training specific to that. We also want to make sure that there are resources, local resources that folks can be referred to. And when I say resource, I mean across everything from finances to childcare, right? You name it, mental health supports, like the whole bit. The helpline is open 24/7. You can call or text. Interpretation services are provided in 160 languages. And if folks are struggling, the number is 833-897-2474. 833-897-2474. And we'll be working over the coming days, weeks, months, and years to be sure that folks across the state have the number, that it's available on wallet cards or on magnets or however it is, social media posts, however it is that we know folks will have it in their wallets or on the refrigerator or on a slip of paper in the truck. Whatever is needed there, we'll get the number out so folks can call 833-897-2474.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. And we will, of course, be partners in that as well. We'll try to get that on publications and have that front and center. This is a piece of legislation that we are proud of partnering with you on, Morgan Cattlemen's, and great to see this get across the finish line. The work's just started, and we know that, and so look forward to messaging that further with you, Allison, as time goes on.
Great, wonderful. We'll keep everybody up to date, and thanks so much for your partnership.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add here before we wrap it up?
I just, it's been a labor of love for a lot of people, in honor of folks that we lost too soon. And we look forward to continuing the work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again, and again.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to better days ahead, hopefully here.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Allison.
My pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll talk